What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over DC Rebirth Aquaman, and we do pick up with the next story arc, better known as King Slayer. Now, King Slayer is a very important story arc because it's the final battle between Aquaman and King Wrath. King Wrath must be defeated in this storyline right here because Atlantis is falling apart, and so Aquaman and the Resistance are going to try their best to defeat King Wrath, but King Wrath is not done trying to protect his throne, trying to protect his kingdom. And so in this video, we're going to see King Wrath release something, the darkest secret of Atlantis, to hopefully defeat Aquaman. Now, before we are able to dive into the actual storyline of Aquaman being able to kill off King Wrath, we have to understand where the character truly came from. This is where we're going to get a tad bit of his origin. So we jump back to the past when he was a young boy, when he was part of the Ninth Circle. Now remember, the Ninth Circle is the ghetto of Atlantis. But while being part of the Ninth Circle, every single person there was very proud to be at least part of Atlantis, including Wrath's father. Now, when it came to his father, he had the job to constantly repair the palace that the kings and queens of Atlantis had lived in. But the problem was, though, that was the only thing he was good at, which was rebuilding the palace. And he had a very short life, a very early ticket to the grave. But for King Wrath, he said, it helped me understand my father even more, how important Atlantis was to him, but also to me. But then we jump over to the present day. Now, as we dive into it, we do see King Wrath getting an update of what's happening across Atlantis. This is a man who had taken over the throne thinking that he would be a great king, to only realize that he's now being attacked from all different sides of people who are now trying to remove him as king of Atlantis. Matter of fact, he gets word of the Ninth Circle now turning their back on him. And that's really huge because, as we saw in the flashback, the Ninth Circle was so proud of being part of Atlantis. But now in the present day, they are no longer proud of being part of Atlantis because of King Wrath. And so you have the king tell his people, burn it all down. Now, when it came to the Ninth Circle, they were already being attacked. If you were somebody that had mutated because of evolution of the Atlantean people, you were going to get kicked out just like that. But now you were talking about the idea of killing off every single soul in the Ninth Circle because they don't agree on how you are as a king. But let's not forget that King Wrath got word that Aquaman is still alive. And he was told about 2 story arcs ago when he took over the kingdom that Aquaman was dead. That Merc, the guy in charge of the King's Guard, was the man who killed off Aquaman. To only find out it's not true, and Aquaman is now leading the resistance against King Wrath. And so you have Wrath asking Merc, hey man, you told me that you killed off Aquaman. And Merc's like, I thought I did. But you know what, King? I'll make sure he stays dead this time. And he leaves. But again, when it comes to Merc, he plays a very important role that's really close to King Wrath. He's part of the King's Guard. He's the man in charge of the King's Guard. And so it's King Wrath saying, I'm trusting you to actually do your job. We then pick up with Ursel and Liat. Now, these are 2 council members who are, working very close to King Wrath. Now, Liat's been around for a good while because he was one of the original council members that removed Aquaman as king of Atlantis. Ursel was brought in by King Wrath, but you now have both people who are now council members thinking of the same thing. They're gonna have to remove King Wrath from his throne like they did when it came to Aquaman, because now they realize that it was a huge mistake making him king of Atlantis. But here's the thing, when it comes to Ursel, she believes that Liat would be a great fit for the next king of Atlantis. But while they were having that conversation, well, King Wrath was using magic to listen in. Now, while doing that, he realized that now his own council no longer wants him to become king of Atlantis. They're trying to remove him. He realized that there's no one left in the kingdom that he can trust except one person, and that would be Godiva. Now, we actually met Godiva a couple videos ago, and when it came to Godiva, we thought he was just a minor character being used as a way to fight against Aquaman to move the story along, to only find out that him and King Wrath have been friends for a very long time, since they were young boys. And matter of fact, they made a pact many years ago to make sure that Atlantis never falls apart, to make sure Atlantis becomes the best kingdom in the world, to make sure that down the road, all the kings and queens of Atlantis bow down to them. But then we see the two characters head over to the Silent School of Atlantis. Now remember, the Silent School of Atlantis is where people go to learn the magic of Atlantis, but they also learn the different magical artifacts of Atlantis as well. Now, here's the thing, because King Wrath has been using a lot of different magical artifacts to kind of help him win against Aquaman and the Resistance, but every single artifact had failed completely. And so he's kind of wondering, is there anything left at all? And the leader of the school says, no, we tried everything. But then you have King Wrath remember, there is a dark secret at the very bottom of the school that could possibly help him win against Aquaman. Now, the leader of the school says, dude, we can't use that. Like, we're all forbidden to use the dark secret down below. We are not gonna use that. But you had King Wrath tell Godiva, kill him off, and the school is now yours, Godiva. You're now in charge of the school, and while I go down there to hopefully use the dark secret to hopefully win the war against Aquaman. And so then we see King Wrath go to a very big door that's locked up tight. But behind the door is some kind of demonic being, some dark being behind there that was locked away, that has close ties to Atlantis. And you had this dark creature begin to talk to King Wrath by saying, what do you want from me? Because it was you guys, people of Atlantis, that had locked me away thousands and thousands of years ago. Even though I helped you guys become what you are today, y'all still locked me away. And that is a problem. So there better be a good reason why you are here. And you have King Wrath saying, because I need your help to protect Atlantis. I need your help to take down the enemies of Atlantis. And you have this demonic being agree to work with King Wrath. And the only thing he had to do was open up the door. Once he does, King Wrath is hit with all these new kinds of powers that could possibly help him defeat Aquaman. And we do get a small glimpse of the powers that he had gained. Because right after that, you had King Wrath feeling a whole lot stronger. And he feels like him and Godiva will be able to continue on with their goals. But when they shake hands, something happens to Godiva. He begins to mutate into a creature, a horrible creature. But we learn that this is the power of the dark secret behind the door. And we begin to learn the actual name of this creature that gave King Wrath his powers, the Abyssal Dark. But either way, now King Wrath has the ability to turn other people into creatures that will always be obedient to him, that will always bow down to him. And so when it comes to Godiva, yes, that's his old friend right there. But now his old friend is an obedient creature that would do anything for his king. And so we then jump over to King Shark and also Jurok, two people who are kind of like commanders in the Resistance. They have been fighting alongside with Aquaman over the last couple days now. And we see them fighting against the Drift. Now remember, the Drift is one of the military forces in Atlantis that has been used a lot by King Wrath to purge the Ninth Circle. Either way, when it comes to the Drift right now, they're getting their butt whooped by King Shark, Jorok, and also the Resistance until Godiva appears. Now, when Godiva appears, everyone stops what they're doing to look at the man, to see how he had completely changed into some kind of sea creature. And they're wondering what in the world is going on here. What happened to him? But then he begins to use the powers of the abyssal dark on other members of the drift, turning them also into sea creatures as well. That's all now being controlled by King Wrath, and they begin to attack the Resistance. And now our heroes are struggling. That is when Aquaman appears, and when he does, he begins to beat down on Godiva and other members of the drift. It is one sight to see because this man is beating everyone up. But then out of nowhere, someone attacks Aquaman, and when he turns around, it's Merc. And this is really huge because the last time these two characters saw each other, Merc stabbed Aquaman and made everyone believe that Aquaman was dead. But now these two characters who used to be friends must now fight against each other. But then we jump over to the Tower of Widowhood. Now remember, this is the tower where you have a group of women who believe to be the heart of Atlantis, but they're also the ones who kind of make sure Atlantis goes the right way because they have oracles in their tower that are able to see possible futures when it comes to different events. Either way, when it comes to the mother of the tower, she was one of the council members who helped remove Aquaman and put King Wrath on the throne. And now it's her and everyone else in the tower realizing that was a huge mistake. Word has gotten out, the Silent School has been killed off completely. That King Wrath has now released the abyssal dark into Atlantis, and that is a problem. And so now they're wondering what can they do to actually stop him, but to also stop the abyssal dark. Now, speaking of King Wrath, when we jump back over to him, we just see him in his private room talking to the demonic being known as the Abyssal Dark. And while they are talking to each other, you then have King Wrath realize that his face is beginning to change. Now, this is huge because let's not forget, when it came to King Wrath at the very beginning of his time as king, he wanted to get rid of people who were going through mutation, turning into sea creatures. Because when it comes to people of Atlantis, they're still evolving. They have been evolving ever since Atlantis had sunk to the bottom of the ocean. And the next step of their evolution is most likely turning into different kinds of sea creatures. But for King Wrath, that was not okay. But it looks like he's now becoming one of them. Now you do have the Abyssal Dark saying, hey, I'm sorry, but when it comes to power like this, it comes with a cost. So unfortunately, you are going to evolve. But let's not stop though. Like, come on. We're doing a good job here. Atlantis is becoming a great kingdom. We have to keep pushing. But then we jump over to Aquaman fighting against Merc. Now, their battle is really important for a lot of different reasons here. Because when it comes to Merc, he was the guy who stabbed Aquaman, but he was also the guy who had worked very close to Aquaman when he was the leader of the King's Guard and making sure that Aquaman was always protected. They had a bond with one another, and so it left a lot of people confused on why he stabbed Aquaman. And he said, because you were a failure of a king to me. I hated you as a king, but I liked you as a person. And so I was hoping after I stabbed you that you would just get right back up and leave Atlantis and let King Wrath do his work and become the next great king of Atlantis. But unfortunately, you stuck around, and here you are now trying to fix Atlantis and trying to become king of Atlantis again. Don't you realize the people of Atlantis don't want you as their king? Because the problem is you were always so big on what you wanted, which was having Atlantis work alongside the other countries in the world from the surface world. but you never asked us, the people, if we wanted that. And that was my huge problem right there. So yes, you're a great guy, but you are a horrible king, and I cannot allow you to become king again. But you have Aquaman say, you're completely wrong. I'm not here to become king of Atlantis. I'm here to just remove King Wrath from the throne and let someone else become the new ruler of Atlantis. And that is why I say you're wrong. And so then you have the two characters realize they can work together to hopefully remove King Wrath from his throne. But getting back over to the palace, you didn't have the council members realize they have no choice but to go ahead and put down King Wrath. They have to now, because word has gotten out across Atlantis that he has killed off the Silent School, that he has now released the Abyssal Dark, that he is now turning other people into sea creatures. He gotta go. But the problem is, he's too strong. And so when they try to raid his private room in the palace, homeboy pops out and he is ready to beat them down. Now, later on, we do see both Merc and also Aquaman arriving at the palace, and they are pretending that Merc was able to capture Aquaman and he's about to hand Aquaman over as a prisoner. But in reality, it's the two of them doing this so that they were able to get close enough to the actual palace so that Aquaman can go inside and begin the final battle between him and King Wrath. But you also have Merc tell Aquaman, listen, when it comes down to fighting against Wrath, you're gonna have to kill him. Like, stop trying to be a hero and believe that everyone can live and hopefully change. Like, this is a man you're gonna have to kill if you want to make sure that Atlantis is finally free. So when the kill shot is there, take it. But when they go inside, they realize they can't find anybody. They're wondering, where is everyone at? Why is it so quiet in the actual palace? But then you have Ursula appear. And when she appears, she shows fear written all across her face. She's trying to get the heck out of there because her and the council, they tried to bring down King Wrath and they failed. And she got a front row seat of how powerful he truly had become. But Aquaman realized that Merc is no longer with him, that Merc is heading towards the throne room. And so when you have Merc walk into the throne room, all he sees is the dead bodies of different council members. They were completely wrecked by King Wrath. And when he finds King Wrath, he realized King Wrath has changed completely. He has mutated into some kind of demonic sea creature. And he's wondering what's happening to his king. But you have King Wrath say, you have been lying to me this entire time. You told me that you got rid of Aquaman. You told me you were on my side. Those were lies. And you have King Wrath turn around and show Merc and us how badly he had evolved and just throws Merc right into the wall of the kingdom, or the palace, sorry. And this begins the next battle. But we have to jump over to Dolphin and also Vulko. Now remember, Vulko was a close ally to Aquaman in the early days of the New 52 to only turn into an enemy. And Dolphin is a very interesting love interest right now for Aquaman, even though he's still with Mera. But you have the two characters working together to try to figure out what can they do to help Aquaman get rid of the Abyssal Dark. Except you didn't have Dolphin pull out a book that talks about the idea of using all different kinds of defensive weapons that were put inside of Atlantis to help protect Atlantis. So why not use that same system against King Wrath? But you have Vulko say, because King Wrath is still in control of Atlantis, those systems will fall to his demands. So unfortunately, we can't use them. But then Vulko realized there is an older system that when it comes to King Wrath, he cannot control at all, that could help them win against him. Getting back over to Merc, you have Merc getting one heck of a beatdown from King Wrath, but to only be saved by Aquaman. Now, Aquaman does not take the kill shot when it comes to getting rid of King Wrath, because again, he's a hero. But that's the problem though, because as soon as he's able to show that he was also in the palace to King Wrath, you then have King Wrath just show Aquaman how powerful that he has truly become and began to beat down on Aquaman as well. And so it looks like our hero and Merc are about to die by the hands of King Wrath. Getting back over to Vulko and his group, we kind of find out what Vulko is trying to do. He's trying to use the Spectral Guardians. Now, these Guardians were people who gave up their souls to become spirits who protect the treasury of Atlantis. But here's the thing. King Wrath cannot control them, and they might have the ability to give Aquaman and the others the edge they need to defeat the Abyssal Dark, but to also defeat King Wrath as well. And so that is their goal, to use these guys here to save the day. Now, getting back over to Aquaman, who's fighting against King Wrath, let me tell y'all, Aquaman is not doing well here. He's getting his butt kicked a lot when it comes to King Wrath and his newfound powers. Now, luckily for Aquaman, Merc is still around, and Merc tries to help out by stabbing King Wrath, except King Wrath is still too strong. He just turns around, grabs Merc, and rips his arm off, which honestly is pretty brutal. But you didn't have Aquaman realize he has no choice but to escape. 1, he's too weak. 2, Merc is down and bleeding to death. They have to leave now if they want to survive. But getting back over to Vulko's group, we're believing that they are able to convince the Guardians to actually help out when it comes to bringing down King Wrath. But they say, we can't do that because our goal is to protect Atlantis. And because King Wrath is the king of Atlantis, that means he is Atlantis. So we also have to protect him as well. And so it seems like the last thing that could help our heroes bring down King Wrath is now completely lost. But then out of nowhere, you have Godiva appear with fellow soldiers who have been changed thanks to King Wrath and the Abyssal Dark, and they're now there to kill off Vulko and his group. But getting back over to King Wrath, you have him sitting down and talking to the Abyssal Dark, this demonic being. And you have the two characters talking about the idea, the problem with Atlantis, the problem with Atlanteans, that they have the ability to be the greatest thing in the world, but they're too scared to achieve it. They don't have the courage to reach for their goals. And so you have the Abyssal Dark tell King Wrath, it's up to you to lead Atlantis into a better direction. But to do that, you have to get rid of Atlantis. See, when it comes to a new kingdom, the old kingdom has to go away, which means you have to annihilate the people who stand in your way to get rid of the rest of your enemies who could possibly stand in your way. It's up to you to now become the ruler of the entire world. That's your goal right there, Wrath. That's your goal for Atlantis. But to make sure you can reach it, take all of my power and begin the process of ripping down the old Atlantis. But getting back over to Aquaman, he was able to take Merc over to the Tower of Widowhood to say, hey guys, listen, he needs help. He lost his arm and he is bleeding to death. So please help out here. The problem is they're wondering, did you kill off King Wrath? Aquaman had to say no. Now Merc tells him he had a kill shot and he did not take it. But you have Aquaman say, even if I tried to take the kill shot, it wouldn't work either way because how powerful Wrath had became. There's no way that I would actually be able to win. We are so screwed at the moment right now until you have Vulko appear. And we kind of find out that Vulko was able to convince the spirits, the guardians of the treasury, to come over and to help out. Because once they saw what happened to Godiva and other members of the Drift, they all realized, oh my gosh, King Wrath is part of the Abyssal Dark. He's no longer part of Atlantis. He's no longer is Atlantis. He's now an enemy we have to bring down to make sure Atlantis can survive. But then you have the Guardians say, let us explain to you where in the world the Abyssal Dark came from. And so you have the Guardians tell us that when it comes to the abyssal dark, it was around ever since Atlantis was still part of the surface world. And back then, Atlantis was showing the rest of the world how great they were with their science and their magic. But the problem was they wanted to be perfect. But to be able to reach perfection, you have to go out of your way and find different things to help you reach that goal. And of course, they did. They found the abyssal dark, but that was the problem. The abyssal dark was a demonic being that was feeding on what the Atlanteans wanted. And once they realized how corrupt he was, they locked it away to make sure no other men would be able to be affected by this. But over the years, the being was always whispering, hoping that somebody can hear its words to hopefully release it. And of course, it was King Wrath. Now you do have the Guardians being able to give Aquaman the power he may need that could possibly stop King Wrath, except that is when the tower is under attack. And well, it is King Wrath. He's here to finish the job. He is here to kill off Aquaman and the others to make sure that victory is his. But let's not forget that we just saw Aquaman get an upgrade when it comes to his trident. So it might be able to stop King Wrath here and once and for all. It doesn't, because you have Aquaman stab King Wrath right in the chest, hoping it would bring him down. Except you have King Wrath just knock Aquaman away, pull out the trident out of his chest, and show that he has became even more powerful than he was than the last time Aquaman had fought against him. So now all hope looks lost right now. It does look like our heroes are about to lose to King Wrath. Now, you do have King Wrath continuing to beat down on Aquaman. It does look like the end for Aquaman, except that is when you have Dolphin appear. Now, when Dolphin appears, she tries her best to help out, but still, she's not strong enough to help Aquaman defeat King Wrath. His evolution, or him evolving into this creature, is just way too powerful for anyone to actually do anything to him. And so you have everyone wondering what could happen now. Is this the end for Atlantis? Except that is when Mera comes back. And when she comes back around, oh, she brought an army with her. She brought the forces of Zebul. Now remember, Zebul was a group of people that were from Atlantis, but they were exiled from Atlantis many years ago. But when it came to the mother of the widowhood, she believed that what could really help Atlantis out if Zebul came back into the fold of Atlantis. And so you have Mera bringing her folks back, saying, hey guys, listen, they want us back, but before we are able to come back, we got to help them take down King Wrath. Now, while you have Mera trying her best to fight against the king, you then have Aquaman come from behind and stab King Wrath right in the eye. Now, here is the thing, because this is Aquaman saying, look at what you did, King Wrath. You did something I could not achieve. The idea of bringing everyone from Atlantis together once again. But not because you're a great king, because you were an evil king. And everyone realized that you should be removed, that you should no longer be here at all. And so with them just stabbing into the eye of King Wrath, he's also beginning to bring out the spirit of the abyssal dark. Now, when the demon comes out of the body of King Wrath, it's kind of like this random mist or random gas being brought out of King Wrath's body, but you have the abyssal dark tell Aquaman, this is not the end. Like, you're not locking me up. Now, yes, I'm being dragged away by the tides, but sooner or later, I'll come back. Sooner or later, worse things are going to happen to you. And when they do, you realize where this all began. And so the demon disappears. Now you have our heroes beginning to celebrate, but their celebration gets cut very short. Now, when it came to Dark Knight's Metal, it came out around the same time this book came out. And so when it came to Dark Knight Metal, some of the heroes were able to make a wish to finally have something they truly desire. And when it came to Aquaman, the one thing he truly did desire was to have the ability to live in both worlds, Atlantis and the surface world. But the only way to do that is if Atlantis is no longer at the bottom of the ocean. So out of nowhere, you have Atlantis just being risen back up to the surface level. And with that happening, Aquaman got his wish. He's now able to, live a life between Atlantis and now the surface world. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.